The alarm systems across the Galactic Council headquarters came alive at once. Something was wrong. Ambassador Velthar walked quickly through the metal corridors, his four arms moving in patterns that showed his worry. The humans had not shown up for the meeting. This was the third time in a row. He reached the communication center and pushed buttons on the control panel. The screen showed nothing but empty static. Every channel to Earth was dead. Every human station in the galaxy had gone silent. No messages, no responses, just silence. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Horizon. 2 weeks ago, he had received orders that changed everything. The message was short and clear. All human ships and people must return to Earth immediately. No delays, no questions. Leave now. He looked at his crew. They had been working with alien partners for 5 years. They had friends among the other species. They had built trust. Now they were ordered to abandon everything and go home. Jake did not understand why, but he followed orders. Within 3 days, his ship joined hundreds of others heading back to Earth. The Galactic Council chamber filled with representatives from 40 different species. They talked loudly, their voices mixing into a wall of sound. Fear spread through the room like fire. For 200 years, humans had been the ones who kept peace in the galaxy. They stopped wars before they started. They helped species talk to each other when they could not agree. They brought food to starving worlds and medicine to sick ones. Now they were gone, all of them. Every human diplomat, every human soldier, every human trader had vanished within a week. No warning, no explanation, just empty stations and silent communication channels. Commander Lisa Patterson walked through Station Kepler 442 for the last time. This station had been her home for 3 years. She had managed over 5,000 workers here, most of them aliens from different species. They gathered around her now, asking questions she could not answer. "Why are you leaving?" asked one of the Drine workers, his blue skin turning darker with worry. "Where are all the humans going?" another voice called out. Lisa looked at their faces. She wanted to tell them something that would help, but she had no information to give. Her orders were simple. Take every human and return to Earth. Leave everything else behind. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I do not know why. I only know we must go." She boarded the last transport ship. Through the window, she watched the station grow smaller in the distance. The lights were still on, but she knew the truth. Without human engineers to maintain the systems, those lights would go dark within months. The station would die a slow death. On Earth, President Andrew Collins sat in a large meeting room with leaders from every nation. The mood was heavy. This decision had taken months of debate. It had caused arguments and anger. But in the end, they all agreed. Humanity needed to step back. For decades, they had helped other species. They had given them technology. They had sent their soldiers to die in alien wars. They had spent trillions of credits supporting civilizations that often treated humans with contempt. The galaxy had taken Earth's help and complained it was not enough. They had called humans violent when they defended themselves and weak when they tried diplomacy. President Collins remembered the attack on the colony ship Newton 3 years ago. 200 human families killed by Zorvan raiders while traveling to a new settlement. The Zorvan government refused to punish the attackers. They said humans should not have been in that region of space. The Galactic Council did nothing. He remembered the trade agreements that favored alien species over human ones. He remembered the insults from ambassadors who demanded Earth's help while mocking human culture. He remembered the faces of parents whose children died protecting aliens who did not even thank them. "We gave them everything," President Collins said to the room. "We asked for basic respect in return. We asked to be treated as equals. Instead, they treated us as servants, as tools to be used and thrown away." The other leaders nodded. They had all seen the same patterns. The galaxy had become dependent on humanity, but they showed no gratitude. They expected human help as if it was their right. They never considered what would happen if humans decided to stop helping. "Let them see what the galaxy looks like without us," said the Secretary of Defense, a woman named Patricia Green. "Maybe then they will understand what they lost." The vote was unanimous. Earth would close its borders. All humans would return home. All aid programs would stop. All military protection would end. The galaxy wanted to be free of human interference. Now they would get exactly what they wished for. Jake Morrison brought his ship into Earth orbit 4 days later. The space around the planet was crowded with returning vessels, thousands of ships, all coming home at once. He felt strange being back. He had spent most of his adult life in deep space. Earth felt small now, contained, but it also felt safe. He received new orders immediately. Report to Solar Defense Command. His ship would now protect Earth's system instead of patrolling alien space. The mission was different but clear. From now on, humanity would look after itself first. Across the galaxy, the effects of the withdrawal started to show. On the border between the Vrax Consortium and the Thule Federation, automated defense platforms went offline. These platforms had been maintained by human technicians for 30 years. They had prevented conflicts by watching both sides and warning of any aggressive moves. Without the platforms, both sides grew nervous. They could not see what the other was doing. Old fears came back. Old grudges surfaced. Within days, small ships from both sides crossed the border. They told themselves it was just reconnaissance, just checking, just being careful. But fear makes people do foolish things. A Vrax patrol ship fired on what it thought was a Thule warship. The target turned out to be a mining vessel. 12 Thule miners died. The Thule government demanded justice. The Vrax refused to apologize. Tensions rose higher. There was no one to calm the situation. No human negotiators to arrange meetings. No human peacekeepers to separate the fleets. The two species had depended on Earth to prevent exactly this kind of crisis. Now Earth was gone, and they had to handle it themselves. They did not handle it well. Lisa Patterson reached Earth and immediately reported to the Department of Galactic Affairs. The department was being shut down. There were no more galactic affairs to manage. She was reassigned to domestic security. Her skills in managing large operations would be useful on Earth. She asked her supervisor a question that had bothered her since leaving the station. "What will happen to them? The aliens on the station?" Her supervisor, a tired man named George Harper, shook his head. "That is not our problem anymore. We gave them instructions. We left the manuals. We offered to train their people for years, but they always refused. They said they did not need human knowledge. Now they can prove it." Lisa knew he was right, but it still felt wrong. She had worked with those people. She had eaten meals with them. She had solved problems with them. Now they were on their own, and she knew they were not ready. But Earth had made its choice. The galaxy would face the consequences of taking humanity for granted. Whatever happened next was no longer Earth's responsibility. For the first time in 2 centuries, humans would focus on themselves and let the rest of the galaxy manage its own problems. The silence from Earth was complete. The message was clear. Humanity was done. 3 weeks had passed since the humans disappeared. The first cracks in galactic civilization appeared quickly. Admiral Kyle Stevens watched the news reports from his home on the Pacific coast. He had retired from active service 2 years ago, but the military still sent him updates. What he saw made him shake his head. The Vrax and Thule border skirmishes had turned into full battles. Ships that once faced each other across neutral zones now fired weapons freely. The dead numbered in thousands already. Before, human patrol fleets kept both sides honest. A human captain would position their ship between the 2 fleets and dare either side to fire first. No one ever did. Humans had a reputation. Starting a fight with them was stupid. Now there were no human ships, no one to stop the fighting. The Vraks launched raids on Thule supply lines. The Thule responded by bombing Vraks colonies. Each attack brought a harder response. The cycle was spinning out of control. Kyle poured himself coffee and read the next report. This one was about economics. The numbers were worse than he expected. Human corporations had been the backbone of galactic trade. They made the computers that ran everything. They produced medicines that kept dozens of species alive. They managed the shipping networks that moved goods between star systems. All of that had stopped. Human companies pulled out of alien markets completely. They took their patents and their knowledge with them. The galaxy was left with factories they could not run and machines they could not fix. Dr. Amy Richardson sat in her apartment in Geneva and tried to ignore her message inbox. It was full of pleas from alien doctors she had worked with. A plague had broken out in the Keltor system. The disease was spreading fast. Without human pharmaceutical equipment, they could not make the cure. She knew how to help them. She had the formulas. She had the equipment right here on Earth. She could save millions of lives with a single order. But that was not her decision to make anymore. 10 years ago, Earth had offered to share medical technology with the Keltor. The humans wanted to build factories on Keltor worlds. They would teach Keltor scientists how to make their own medicines. It was free, no cost, just friendship and cooperation. The Keltor refused. They called it cultural imperialism. They said humans were trying to control their society. They held protests and burned Earth's flag. They told humans to keep their technology and their interference. Now they were dying, and they wanted that same technology they had rejected. Amy felt torn. Her doctor's oath told her to help anyone who needed it, but her government had made a choice. The galaxy needed to learn that actions had consequences. She closed her inbox without responding. It hurt, but she did it anyway. On the former human colony of New Horizon, Governor Martin Cruz had left 3 months ago. He had not wanted to leave. He had spent 10 years on this world. He loved it. But Earth's orders were absolute. Every human must come home. Before leaving, Martin had given the alien settlers detailed instructions. The water purification systems needed maintenance every 6 weeks. The atmosphere processors required specific calibrations. The power grid had backup procedures that must be followed exactly. He left manuals. He left video guides. He even offered to train their people before he left. The new alien government ignored all of it. They were happy to see the humans go. They had protested human presence for years. They said humans were occupiers. They said the colony belonged to them now. They were certain they could run everything better without human help. Now the systems were failing. The water started tasting strange 2 weeks ago. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. The power had flickered several times. Engineers tried to fix the problems, but they did not understand the human technology. They had refused to learn when they had the chance. The alien governor called emergency meetings. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to ask Earth for help. Others said that would be shameful. They could not admit they needed humans. Their pride would not allow it. While they argued, the atmosphere processors continued to fail. Oxygen levels dropped slowly. Carbon dioxide built up. People started getting sick. Children had trouble breathing. The elderly began to die. Back on Earth, the Galactic Council tried to save face. They met in emergency sessions every day. Ambassador Veldthar had been replaced after his failure to contact Earth. The new ambassador was a Kryn named Zoltar. He was younger and more aggressive. He thought he had a solution. "We do not need to beg the humans," Zoltar told the council. "We simply remind them of their obligations. They signed the Galactic Accords. Those accords require them to assist in times of crisis. They are bound by law to help us." The council liked this idea. It let them avoid admitting they were wrong. They could demand Earth's help instead of asking for it. They prepared an official ultimatum. Return to your duties or face sanctions. When the message reached Earth, President Collins called a press conference. He invited every news organization on the planet. He wanted everyone to see this moment. The president stood at the podium and read the council's ultimatum out loud. Then he looked directly into the cameras. His voice was calm and cold. The Galactic Council believes we owe them our service. They are wrong. We gave them our friendship freely. We offered our help without asking for anything in return. They responded with insults and ingratitude. They murdered our people and felt no shame. Now they demand we save them again? He paused and let the silence stretch. Then he said the words clearly. The answer is no. We owe you nothing. You wanted us gone. You have your wish. Live with it. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. The reaction was shock. Some species felt anger. How dare humans refuse to help? Others felt fear. If Earth would not help, who would? A few felt shame. They began to realize what they had lost. Captain Jake Morrison was assigned to solar defense now. His job was to protect Earth from any threats. He did not expect threats to come so soon. But 3 weeks after the president's speech, sensors detected a fleet approaching human space. 50 warships from 7 different species were coming toward Earth. It was meant to be a show of force. The galaxy was trying to intimidate humans into compliance. They thought if they showed enough strength, Earth would back down. Jake looked at the tactical display. 50 ships seemed like a lot. Before the withdrawal, it would have been a serious threat. But those alien species had learned warfare from humans. They knew human tactics from the peacekeeping era. What they did not know was what humans had kept secret. Earth had been holding back for 200 years. Their most advanced weapons had never been used in combat. Their best defense systems had never been activated. Humans had been gentle because they chose to be, not because they had to be. The alien fleet reached Mars' orbit and sent a message. Surrender and return to your duties. Accept the Council's authority. Submit or be destroyed. Jake had his orders. He opened a channel and responded. This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth Defense. You are in violation of our territory. Turn back now, or we will defend ourselves. The alien fleet commander laughed. You are one man with a few dozen ships. We are 50 warships from the strongest militaries in the galaxy. You cannot win. Jake smiled. It was not a kind smile. You trained with us. You never trained against us. There is a difference. Last warning. Turn back. The alien fleet opened fire. That was their mistake. Earth's defense grid came online. Quantum torpedoes launched from hidden platforms throughout the solar system. These weapons moved faster than anything the aliens had seen before. They appeared on sensors for half a second, then hit their targets. Shields that would have stopped regular missiles meant nothing. The torpedoes passed right through them. Gravitic mines created fields that crushed ship hulls like paper. AI-coordinated targeting systems tracked every enemy vessel at once. No wasted shots, no missed targets. Every weapon hit exactly where it was supposed to. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 32 alien ships were destroyed. The remaining 18 were crippled and drifting. Jake sent rescue teams to collect survivors. Earth's policy was clear. They would not kill helplessly, but the survivors would go home with a message. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell coordinated the rescue operations. She brought alien crew members aboard Earth ships and gave them medical care. She made sure they had food and water. She treated them with basic decency, but she also made sure they understood something important. You think we helped you before because we were weak, Sarah told a Varax captain who had lost his ship. You think we were kind because we had to be. You were wrong. We were gentle because we chose to be. We held back because we did not want to hurt you. Now you know what happens when we stop holding back. The alien captain said nothing. His eyes showed fear and understanding. The defeated fleet limped back to the council. They brought stories of Earth's power. They told of weapons that could not be stopped and defenses that could not be broken. The galaxy realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were their servants. They never understood humans were their protectors. There is a difference. On New Horizon, the atmosphere finally reached critical failure. The alien governor had no choice left. He sent a distress signal to Earth begging for help. President Collins read the message and thought about Martin Cruz. The man had tried to teach them. He had tried to prepare them. They had ignored him and called him an occupier. The president sent back a simple response. We gave you the knowledge to prevent this. You refused it. We cannot help those who will not help themselves. 3 days later, New Horizon began emergency evacuations. Thousands died in the panic. The world that aliens had claimed from humanity became uninhabitable through their own ignorance. Earth watched, but did not intervene. The lesson was harsh, but necessary. 1 year had passed since humanity withdrew. The Galactic Council building looked different now. Half the representatives no longer came to meetings. Their governments had collapsed or were too busy fighting wars to care about galactic politics. The Grand Chamber that once held hundreds now barely filled with dozens. Ambassador Zoltar stood before the remaining council members. His appearance had changed. The confident swagger was gone. He looked tired and older. The Kryn Imperium was falling apart, and he knew it. But he could not admit that. Pride would not let him. We must face reality, said Ambassador Chenva of the Thule Federation. Her voice cracked with exhaustion. Our war with the Vraks has cost us everything. We have lost 20 colonies. Our economy is destroyed. Our people are starving. Without human help, we will not survive another year. Zoltar slammed his hand on the table. We will not beg the humans. They abandoned us. They broke their promises. They are the criminals here, not us. They kept no promises, Chenva shot back. We took their help for granted. We treated them like servants. We earned this. The argument went on for hours. It was the same every meeting. Some wanted to apologize to Earth and ask for help. Others refused to admit any wrongdoing. While they argued, more people died. More worlds fell into chaos. More civilizations crumbled. Commander Lisa Patterson worked at Earth's Strategic Analysis Center now. Her job was to track what was happening in the galaxy and write reports. Every report she wrote showed the same thing. Galactic civilization was dying. The Vraks-Thule War had expanded. 4 more species had joined the fighting. Resource convoys were being raided by pirates. Trade routes that once moved goods between 100 worlds now sat empty. Factories closed because they had no supplies. People went hungry because food shipments stopped coming. Lisa remembered Ambassador Velthar. He had visited Earth 5 years ago for a trade summit. At dinner, he had made jokes about human food being too bland. He said humans were boring people with no culture worth learning. Then he spent an hour demanding Earth give the Kryn better trade terms. When Earth's negotiators said no, he called them greedy. Now Velthar was dead. His own people had executed him for failure. The Kryn blamed him for not keeping Earth's help. They did not blame themselves for driving Earth away. It was easier to kill one person than to admit everyone was wrong. Dr. Amy Richardson finally shut down her old office at the Andromeda Medical Complex. The facility existed only in her computer files now. The actual building was abandoned. Without human staff, it had closed within 3 months. The alien doctors who worked there tried to keep it running. They could not manage the complex systems. She read the final reports before archiving everything. The Keltor plague had killed 15 million people. The disease was completely curable with human medicine. Every single one of those deaths could have been prevented. Amy had to live with that knowledge, but she also had to remember Dr. Peter Hayes. He had been her friend and colleague. 5 years ago, he went to the Keltor homeworld to help during a different outbreak. He saved thousands of lives. A Keltor extremist group decided his presence was offensive to their culture. They bombed his hotel. Peter died along with 30 other humans who were there to help. The Keltor government never apologized. They said the extremists had valid concerns about human interference. They paid no compensation to the families. They told Earth that humans should accept the risks if they chose to get involved in alien affairs. Now those same Keltor were begging for the help they had rejected. Amy felt conflicted. Her conscience hurt, but her memory was clear. Sometimes people had to face the full cost of their choices. On the colony world of Tarsus Prime, former Ambassador Carl Bennett grew vegetables in his garden. He had lived here for 30 years. He loved this world. He loved the aliens who lived here. Many of them had become real friends. They visited his house. They shared meals. They told him stories about their lives. Now those friends came to him crying. Their government was collapsing. Food supplies were running out. The medical system had failed. Their children were dying from diseases that human medicine could cure easily. "Please talk to Earth," they begged him. "You know important people there. Make them send help. Make them come back." Carl felt helpless. "I have no power," he explained. "I am retired. I am just an old man growing tomatoes." Earth made a choice. It was not one person's choice. It was everyone's choice. The whole planet agreed. "They will not change their minds because I ask." His friends did not understand. They thought humans made decisions the way their species did, with a few leaders deciding for everyone. They did not grasp that Earth's democracy meant billions of people had to agree, and those billions had all decided that enough was enough. Carl watched his friends leave with empty hands. He wanted to help them, but he could not. All he could do was share his vegetables and offer comfort. It felt like nothing compared to what they needed. The breaking point came from an unexpected place. The Kryn Imperium had been one of the strongest opponents of Earth's return. They had been proud. They had insisted they needed no human help. They claimed they could manage better without human interference. Then the rebellion started. The Kryn had controlled 15 subject species through a combination of military force and political agreements. Humans had helped negotiate those agreements. They had made sure the subject species were treated fairly. They had put rules in place that protected the weak from the strong. When humans left, those protections vanished. The Kryn military began treating subject species harshly again. Old habits came back. Slavery returned in some regions. Brutal punishments for small crimes became normal. The subject species had endured this before humans arrived. They remembered. They refused to endure it again. Rebellions broke out on 12 worlds at once. The Kryn military tried to crush them, but they were stretched too thin. They were also fighting border wars with 3 other species. Their fleets could not be everywhere at once. The subject species fought back harder than expected. They had learned from watching humans. They used guerrilla tactics. They targeted supply lines. They made the Kryn pay for every mile of ground. Ambassador Zoltar watched his government fall apart. His military could not stop the rebellions. His economy could not support the war effort. His people were turning against him, blaming him for the disaster. He knew what was coming. The end came quickly. Rebels stormed the capital. They captured government officials and put them on trial. The trials were short. The punishments were harsh. Zoltar was executed along with 50 other high-ranking Kryn. The new government was made up of former rebels and subject species representatives. Their first act was to issue a formal apology to Earth. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. We were wrong. We treated humanity with contempt when they deserved respect. We took their help and gave nothing back. We insulted them while depending on them. We drove them away and then blamed them for leaving. We accept full responsibility for our actions. We ask humbly if Earth would consider helping us rebuild. We will accept any terms they offer. We have learned what happens when humans are gone. We do not wish to learn that lesson again. The message was different from others the Council had sent. It contained no demands, no ultimatums, no pride, just honest admission of guilt and a request for help. Other species watched. Within weeks, 17 more governments issued similar statements. They apologized. They acknowledged their mistakes. They asked for help instead of demanding it. They offered real agreements instead of expecting free assistance. President Andrew Collins read each message carefully. His cabinet gathered to discuss what to do. Secretary of State Helen Carter believed this was what they had been waiting for. The galaxy was finally learning. "They understand now," she said. "They know what they lost. They are ready to treat us as equals." Director of Intelligence Scott Palmer was less certain. "Some of them understand. Others are just desperate. How do we know which ones really changed and which ones are just pretending until they get back on their feet?" It was a good question. Trust had been broken. It would take more than words to repair. But words were a start. President Collins made his decision. "We will respond. But we respond on our terms. The galaxy needs to understand something clearly. We are not coming back as peacekeepers. We are not coming back as their servants. If we return as partners, equal partners. They follow our rules, or they do without our help." The cabinet agreed. The next step was to write new terms. The galaxy wanted Earth's help. They would get it, but the price would be higher than they expected. The days of taking advantage of human kindness were over. Earth would help those who earned it. The rest could face the consequences of their choices alone. Captain Jake Morrison received new orders. Prepare for humanitarian missions. Earth was going back to the galaxy, but this time would be different. This time humans knew their worth. This time they would accept nothing less than respect. Earth's terms were published across every communication network in the galaxy. President Collins made sure everyone could read them. There would be no confusion, no room for misunderstanding. Accept these terms or continue alone. The document was called the New Horizon Accords. The name was deliberate. It referenced the colony world that had died because aliens refused human knowledge. It was a reminder of what happened when pride replaced wisdom. The terms were clear and firm. Any species wanting to work with Earth must sign the accords completely. No partial agreements, no special exceptions. Accept everything or accept nothing. First term, human citizens on alien worlds would have full legal protection. No more attacks without consequences. No more murders brushed aside as cultural differences. Harm a human, and your government would answer for it directly to Earth. Second term, technology sharing would be reciprocal. Earth would share knowledge, but aliens must share back. The days of taking human inventions without giving anything in return were finished. Trade must be fair for everyone. Third term, Earth would oppose aggression from any species. Not mediate, oppose. If a species attacked another without just cause, they would face human military force. Earth was done trying to talk bullies into behaving. Now they would stop bullies by force. Fourth term, any species could refuse the accords. Earth would not force anyone to join, but those who refused would receive nothing from Earth. No trade, no aid, no protection. They could stand on their own, truly alone. The galaxy's response split into 3 groups. The desperate signed immediately. They needed help too badly to argue. The pragmatic signed after careful thought. They saw the terms were fair, even if strict. The proud refused to sign. They would rather struggle than submit to human conditions. Captain Jake Morrison led the first mission back into galactic space. His ship, the Horizon, carried medical supplies and personnel. The destination was the Keltor system. The plague had finally burned itself out, but the damage remained. Millions were dead. The survivors needed help rebuilding. Dr. Amy Richardson was with him. She had volunteered for this mission, though it hurt her to do it. She would save the people she could save now. She would try not to think about the 15 million who had died while the Keltor government's pride delayed treatment. The Keltor representatives met them at the orbital station. They looked ashamed. Their heads hung low. They spoke quietly, without the arrogance Amy remembered from before. "Thank you for coming," the lead representative said. Her name was Kelna. "We know we do not deserve your help. We know what we said about your people. We know what happened to Dr. Hayes. We have no right to ask anything from you." Amy kept her face neutral, professional. "We are here because you signed the accords. The past is done. We look forward now, but understand this clearly. If any harm comes to any human here, the accords are void. Earth will leave again, and we will never return." Kelna nodded quickly. "We understand. We have made that very clear to our people. Anyone who threatens a human will face the harshest punishment our law allows. We learned our lesson. We learned it in blood and death. We will not forget." The work began immediately. Human doctors set up medical centers. Human engineers repaired infrastructure. Human administrators organized supply lines. The Keltor watched and learned. This time, they paid attention. This time, they took notes. This time, they asked questions instead of making demands. Amy worked 18-hour days treating patients. She saw children with malnutrition. She saw adults with preventable diseases. She saw the cost of pride measured in ruined lives. It made her angry, but she channeled that anger into work. She could not change the past. She could only help the present. At night, she wrote in her journal, "I saved them today, and I am glad I can. But I remember Peter. I remember his laugh and his terrible jokes. I remember how he loved helping people. They killed him for it, and now they need us to do what he tried to do. The universe has a cruel sense of justice." Back on Earth, the economy was changing. Human companies that had left alien markets were doing well. They focused on Earth and human colonies. They created products for human needs. They hired human workers. Earth's unemployment rate hit record lows. Wages went up. Living standards improved. Some people asked if they should feel guilty about prospering while aliens suffered. President Collins addressed this in a speech. "We gave them 200 years of our help. We gave them our technology, our medicine, our protection, and our blood. We asked only for respect in return. They refused. Now we take care of ourselves first, as every species should. We do not harm them. We simply no longer sacrifice ourselves for them. That is not cruelty. That is common sense." The speech was popular. Most humans agreed. They had spent too long putting others first while being treated poorly. Now they put themselves first, and it felt right. Commander Lisa Patterson returned to space as well. She was given command of Station Kepler 442 again. The station had been dormant for over a year. Systems had degraded. Equipment had broken down. The alien workers who stayed behind had tried their best, but they lacked the knowledge to maintain everything. Lisa brought a new crew with her, all human. The aliens who had worked there before were gone. Some had died, some had left to find work elsewhere. A few remained and asked if they could work for her again. She interviewed each one personally. "Why do you want to come back?" she asked. One of them, a drone engineer named Polva, answered honestly. "Because I learned the difference between working with humans and working without them. With humans, things function, systems work, problems get solved. Without humans, everything falls apart. I was too proud to admit that before. I am not too proud anymore." Lisa hired him and others like him, people who had learned humility. People who understood that different species could work together if they respected each other. People who would not take human knowledge for granted again. The station came back online slowly. It took months of hard work. But when it was finished, it was better than before. The new systems had backup controls that aliens could manage if humans had to leave again. Lisa made sure of that. If Earth ever withdrew again, the station would not die. The galaxy needed to learn to function without depending completely on humanity. The war between the Vrax and Thule finally ended, not because they won, but because they could not continue. Both sides had lost too much. Their fleets were destroyed. Their economies were ruined. Their people demanded peace. Admiral Kyle Stevens watched the ceasefire with grim satisfaction. Before the withdrawal, the Vrax had called humans warmongers for maintaining a strong military. They said Earth's fleet was too big. They said humans were too focused on violence. "Look at them now," Kyle said to his wife over dinner. "They tore each other apart the moment we stopped watching. We were not warmongers. We were the ones preventing the war. They just could not see it." His wife nodded. She had lost a brother in the defense of a Vrax colony 10 years ago. The Vrax had never thanked him, never acknowledged his sacrifice. Now they understood what it meant to fight without human support. The Vrax and Thule both signed the New Horizon Accords. They had no choice. Their militaries needed human weapons technology. Their economies needed human trade. Their people needed human medicine. They accepted Earth's terms because the alternative was worse. Not everyone signed. The Zorath Collective refused. They were a proud warrior species. They had chafed under human peacekeeping for decades. Now they celebrated their freedom. They expanded their territory by force, conquering weaker neighbors. Earth watched but did not intervene. The Zorath had not signed the accords. What they did was not Earth's problem. Other species begged for human help against the Zorath. Earth's answer was simple: sign the accords and join the Mutual Defense Agreement, or face the Zorath alone. 3 species signed within days. Others tried to fight the Zorath independently. They lost, badly. The Zorath were fierce warriors, but they were also brutal conquerors. The species they defeated faced harsh occupation. After 6 months, even the Zorath began to struggle. They could conquer territory, but they could not hold it. Rebellions erupted constantly. Their supply lines were overstretched. Their economy buckled under the weight of occupation. They had won battles but were losing the larger war. The Zorath leadership met in secret. They discussed their options. Pride told them to keep fighting. Reality told them they were destroying themselves. In the end, reality won. They sent a message to Earth requesting to discuss terms. President Collins read their message and smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Tell them to sign the accords first, then we will talk. If they want special treatment, they can continue alone." The Zorath signed. They hated doing it, but they signed. Another proud species learned that strength alone was not enough. You also needed wisdom, and wisdom meant knowing when to accept help. Captain Jake Morrison was promoted to Admiral. His new role was coordinating Earth's return to the galaxy. He oversaw humanitarian missions, trade agreements, and military deployments. It was complex work that required careful balance. Earth was helping, but not too much. Teaching, but not doing everything for others. Protecting, but only those who earned protection. Jake understood the strategy. Earth was rebuilding the galaxy, but this time the foundation was different. This time, every species had to carry their own weight. This time, respect was required, not optional. This time, the galaxy would function properly, or not at all. The old galaxy had been built on Earth doing too much. The new galaxy would be built on everyone doing their share. It was a harder system, less forgiving, but it was also more honest and more sustainable. The galaxy was learning to stand on its own feet. It was a painful lesson, but pain was often the only teacher that worked. 3 years after the withdrawal, the galaxy looked completely different. The Galactic Council met in a new building. The old one had been damaged during the Kryn Civil War and never repaired. This new council chamber was smaller, simpler. It matched the new reality. The galaxy was smaller now, more humble, more aware of its limitations. Commander Lisa Patterson attended the council meeting as Earth's representative. She had been promoted several times since returning to space. Now she spoke for humanity in galactic affairs. It was a role she never expected, but one she took seriously. The meeting was about trade routes. Several species wanted to establish new shipping lanes through human-protected space. Before the withdrawal, they would have simply announced their plans and expected Earth to accommodate them. Now, they asked permission. Now they negotiated. Now they understood that Earth's cooperation was valuable, not guaranteed. "We appreciate your request," Lisa told the Vrax trade minister. "Earth will allow the shipping lane, but we require inspection rights. Any ship using the route must submit to random cargo checks. We will not allow weapons trafficking or slave trading through our territory." The Vrax minister nodded quickly. "Of course, those terms are acceptable. We agree completely." Before the withdrawal, the Vrax would have called such terms insulting. They would have accused Earth of overreach and discrimination. Now they accepted the terms without complaint. They had learned what happened when they refused to work with humanity. They had no desire to learn that lesson again. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the Galactic Defense Initiative from his flagship. The GDI was different from the old peacekeeping forces. Every species contributed ships, personnel, and funding according to their ability. Earth provided the most, but not everything. The burden was shared fairly. The GDI's mission was clear: stop aggression, protect trade, respond to disasters. They had the authority to act without waiting for council approval. Speed mattered in emergencies. The galaxy had learned that during the withdrawal, when slow bureaucracy meant slow death. Jake looked at his fleet roster. Ships from 12 different species, all working together under human command. The crews trained together. They ate together. They learned each other's cultures. It was what the old peacekeeping forces should have been, but never quite achieved. The difference was respect. These crews respected each other because they had to. They had all survived the withdrawal. They had all seen what happened when cooperation failed. They did not take their alliance for granted. A distress call came in. A colony on the edge of explored space was under attack by pirates. The GDI responded immediately. Jake sent 3 ships, including one from the Thule Federation. The Thule captain was a veteran who had fought in the war against the Vrax. The mission went smoothly. The pirates were stopped. The colonists were saved. The Thule captain sent Jake a message afterward. "My people once called humans violent and aggressive. We said you started wars. I fought against the Vrax for 2 years. I saw real violence, real aggression. What humans did was not war. It was mercy. You stopped fights before they became massacres. We did not understand that. Now I understand. Thank you for teaching us, even though we did not want to learn." Jake saved the message. It meant something to him. Recognition came late, but it still mattered. Dr. Amy Richardson had stayed in the Keltor system for 2 years. She helped train local doctors. She supervised the building of new medical facilities. She made sure the Keltor could handle their own health care without depending on Earth forever. Now she was preparing to leave. Her work was done. The Keltor had learned. They had capable doctors now. They had functioning hospitals. They had medicine production facilities. They could take care of themselves. Kelna, who had met Amy when she first arrived, came to say goodbye. The Keltor representative was crying. "You gave us more than medicine," she said. "You gave us knowledge. You gave us pride in our own abilities. You taught us that accepting help is not weakness, and giving help is not control. We will never forget what we lost because we could not understand that simple truth." Amy hugged her. "Remember, Peter Hayes. Remember all the humans who tried to help you before. They died because your people would not listen. Honor their memory by listening now, by learning, by being better." Kelna nodded. "We have built a memorial. Every doctor who graduates must visit it. They must read the names of those who died helping us. They must swear to never let pride prevent healing again. Dr. Hayes is remembered." "They all are. Amy left Keltor space with mixed feelings. She had saved many lives. She had helped build something lasting. But 15 million people had died before the Keltor accepted help. That number would haunt her forever. Success and tragedy mixed together in ways that could not be separated. On Earth, President Andrew Collins was finishing his final term. He would not run again. The work was done. The galaxy had learned its lesson. His successor could manage the new relationship with alien species. He gave one last address to the world. 3 years ago, we made a difficult choice. We withdrew from the galaxy to teach them what our presence meant. Many people died during those years. I carry those deaths with me. But I also know that if we had not withdrawn, the cycle would have continued. The galaxy would have kept taking us for granted. They would have kept treating us as servants. More humans would have died in the service of people who despised us. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's harmful behavior. We refused. The galaxy suffered. But the galaxy also learned. That was the price of real change. The speech was his last major act as president. History would judge whether he made the right choice. He believed he had, but he understood others might disagree. Leadership meant making hard decisions and accepting the consequences. Former Ambassador Carl Bennett still lived on Tarsus Prime. He was old now. His garden had grown larger. He spent his days growing food and sharing it with neighbors. The world had stabilized. The government had signed the New Horizon Accords quickly. They were one of the first. His alien friends still visited. They brought their children and grandchildren. They told stories about the dark years when humans were gone. They made sure the young ones understood what had been lost and what had been regained. One young alien asked Carl a question. Why did humans come back? After we treated you so badly, why did you help us again? Carl thought carefully before answering. Because that is who humans are. We help when help is earned. We give when giving is appreciated. We are not saints who help everyone no matter what. We are people who believe in fairness. You learned to treat us fairly, so we returned. If you had not learned, we would have stayed away. It was your choice to change, and we honored that choice. The young alien seemed satisfied with that answer. Carl hoped the lesson would stick. Each generation had to learn these truths for themselves. But at least now there were examples to point to. There was history to study. There were consequences that had been faced and remembered. The Zorath Collective struggled more than most species. Their culture valued strength and conquest. Accepting help felt like weakness to them. Joining a mutual defense agreement felt like surrender. But they had signed the accords, and they tried to follow the terms. It was not easy for them. Several times they almost broke the agreement. Their warriors wanted to raid neighboring systems. Their leaders wanted to expand by force. Each time, human representatives reminded them of the terms, break the accords, and stand alone. The Zorath chose to stay in the agreement. Barely, reluctantly, but they stayed. Admiral Kyle Stevens visited the Zorath homeworld as part of a diplomatic mission. He met with their military leaders. They were impressive warriors, fierce and proud. They did not like taking orders from humans. They made that clear. Kyle did not apologize. You do not take orders from us. You follow agreements you signed freely. If you do not like the agreements, leave. Face the galaxy alone. See how that works for you. We will not stop you. We will simply stop helping you. The Zorath Admiral growled, but he nodded. You speak truth. We signed. We will honor our word. But understand this, human. We do not follow because we are weak. We follow because we choose to. The moment we believe the cost is too high, we will leave. That is your right, Kyle said calmly. Every species chooses their own path. We only ask that you understand the consequences of your choices before you make them. The meeting ended without incident. The Zorath stayed in the Accords. For now. Kyle knew they might leave someday. Some species could not change enough, but at least they understood the stakes now. At least they made informed choices. Commander Lisa Patterson finished her term at the council. She was tired. Years of diplomatic work had worn her down. She requested a transfer back to Earth. She wanted to go home, spend time with family, and rest. Her replacement was a younger officer named Chris Morton. Lisa spent 2 weeks briefing him on the state of galactic affairs. She emphasized one thing above all else. Never forget what the withdrawal taught us. We are not the galaxy's servants. We are not their parents. We are partners. And partners must respect each other. The moment they forget that, we remind them. If they do not listen, we step back. We have done it before. We can do it again. That knowledge keeps everyone honest. Chris understood. He took over Lisa's position with clear eyes and firm resolve. The new generation of human diplomats would maintain what the previous generation had built. Respect or nothing. Partnership or solitude. Fair trade or no trade. The galaxy knew the terms now. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, looked at reports from across the galaxy. Trade was recovering. Medical systems were functioning. Wars had decreased significantly. Pirates were being caught. Infrastructure was being rebuilt. It was working. Slowly, painfully, but working. The galaxy was not what it had been before. It was smaller, poorer, and scarred by the withdrawal years. But it was also more honest, more fair, more sustainable. The weak were still protected, but they were also taught to protect themselves. The strong were still powerful, but they were held accountable for how they used that power. Humanity had returned to the stars, but on their own terms. They helped those who earned help. They partnered with those who offered partnership. They defended those who signed mutual defense agreements. It was not charity. It was not servitude. It was business. Fair business between equals. Some humans felt this was too cold, too calculated. They remembered the idealism of the early years when Earth helped everyone who asked. They wondered if humanity had lost something important during the withdrawal. Others argued they had gained something more important: self-respect. The understanding that kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. The knowledge that helping someone who refuses to help themselves only enables their failure. The debate continued on Earth and would probably continue forever. That was fine. Healthy societies debated their values. What mattered was that humanity had drawn a line. They knew what they would accept and what they would not. They knew when to help and when to step back. They knew their worth and demanded others recognize it too. The galaxy had faced the consequences of taking humanity for granted. Some species survived the lesson, others did not. Those who survived built a new civilization on foundations of mutual respect and fair exchange. It was harder than the old system. It required more from everyone, but it was also more likely to last. Humanity withdrew without warning, and the galaxy nearly died. Humanity returned with conditions, and the galaxy learned to live by them. It was not the happy ending some had hoped for, but it was an honest one. And in a universe that rarely offered fairy tales, honest endings were the best anyone could expect.